Hello everybody, this is Shri and welcome back to my channel Vedic Living. Today I want to start a new series. I'm going to talk about the ascendant or the lagna being in each sign and what that means for the individual. And this series will be with each sign will be one video. So we'll start with Aries and we'll make our way all the way around the chart to Pisces. When we talk about the lagna, it is the ascendant of the chart. So if you want to see where your lagna or your ascendant is situated in your chart, go to my website and use the free chart calculator and you can see this information. And also make sure while you're there on my website, sign up for my free newsletter. I do send out a newsletter every month. So hopefully you sign up for that because you get all the information right in your inbox. So let's go ahead and start with the ascendants and see what happens when each sign in the chart behaves as the ascendant. Now, what is the ascendant or the lagna? The lagna is the sign that was rising in the eastern horizon at the time of your birth. So, for example, if you are born during sunrise, you would have sun right on the ascendant. Right? If you have, say, Jupiter rising in the eastern horizon, then your Jupiter would be right on the ascendant. So this is, that's the reason why in Vedic astrology and in any kind of astrology, really, we do need the exact time of the person's birth because this lagna or ascendant changes every 2 hours. So, you can imagine when in 2 hours, it can go through an entire sign, which is 30 degrees. In 1 minute, it can actually travel a large distance. So this is why it's very important to have the right time of birth because your ascendant changes and so does all your divisional charts. But in India, typically, if we don't know the time of birth, we use the moon chart. Now, using the moon as the ascendant tells us how the native or the individual feels about the events happening in their lives. Because the moon is your feeling, it's your emotion, it's your sensitive body. So regardless of what the planets are creating in the form of circumstances around you, the moon tells us how we feel about these circumstances. So that's why we use the moon as the ascendant if we don't have the person's time of birth. But if you do have the time of birth, the ascendant is the most accurate way to go to read the chart because it sets the first house of the chart. Wherever your ascendant is, that is your first house. That is why the time is so important because the planets in the sky will pretty much be in the same position except for the moon for the whole day. The moon moves really fast, so the degrees of the moon can really change, right? But when you have the ascendant, it kind of puts that starting point on the chart. It says, this is the first house. So that's why it's so important. Now, the ascendant or the first house, what does it mean for the individual? The first house is the self. It's the individual. It's their personality. It's who they are. It's their dreams. It's their ambition, what they want to do. It's the soul. That's the ascendant. That's the first house. That's why directly across from there, when you have the 7th house of the relationship partner or the spouse, it's like a mirror image of the first house. You attract your opposite, right? So that's why the ascendant is so incredibly important. Now let's look at each sign behaving as the ascendant. So the very first thing we're going to look at is Aries. Aries being as the ascendant. What does that mean? What is Aries? Aries is the sign of action. It's the sign of initiative, pioneers, people who do things for the first time. Something that's never been done before, an Aries person can come along and do it so easily, and it'll be the first time that was done. It's the ruler of Aries is Mars, which is a very physical planet. Mars has that pointy arrow, as you know, so it's very direct, very physical. And people who have Aries ascendant or major planets in Aries can be really good with physical work. They love sports of all kinds. Military, they can do really well in military, army, navy, any of those areas, because they follow orders. They love to have a certain kind of rhythm to their life, because it's an action sign, it's a cardinal sign. And like I said, they're the first to do something. They're very active, very dominant, right? So if there's an Aries person and a Cancer ascendant, the Aries person will probably make the decisions. He'll be like, let's do this. And the Cancer will probably follow along, right? Because Cancer ascendants, they like to keep the peace, and they are the nurturers of the zodiac. Coming back to Aries, they are very impulsive though, because it's ruled by Mars. It's quick-witted, and they like to do things very quickly. They may think, sometimes they may leap before they think. So when you have Aries as your ascendant, you have to remember to have that restraint sometimes before you make an important decision, because impulsiveness is a big part of the sign. They may have high temper because it's ruled by Mars. They have quick temper. So it's quick to rise, but it's also quick to cool down. So you may get angry really fast, but at the same time, you cool down very fast too. And another thing also is they love the fast-paced life, because it's such an action-oriented sign, and people just love to racing cars, or they drive cars really fast, or they love the fast-paced life. That's just the way Aries ascendant is. Now, Aries ascendants, typically they're close to their mother, right? Because they may also be very sensitive and emotional towards their family, and also they require structure in their family. They require a regular kind of family life. They won't be happy if things are different, right? They like a regular family life, structure, balance. They're pretty close to their mothers. Because why? Because from Aries, Cancer becomes the 4th house. That's why. And Cancer is a sign of nurturing and structure and stability. That's why Aries ascendants, they love the feeling of family and being in a big family, and just something that grounds them, so to speak. Now, Gemini becomes their 3rd house. So siblings are very important to them. But one of the things with Gemini being the 3rd house is that they can sometimes be a little competitive towards their siblings, okay? They'll be very communicative to them, but there can be some amount of competition, because the 3rd house is the house of competition and willpower, and ruling the siblings, and that too Gemini, it's an air sign, so there can be some of that happening, right? Some competition going on there with their siblings, co-workers. And 3rd house is not just siblings, it can be co-workers, people who are kind of considered at your same level. Now, Saturn rules the 10th house. So they love professions that are very grounded. They won't do well in these work environments which are like small projects and it's done, right? They like the kind of groundedness of the work environment, where you have something going on for a long period of time. And so when things change suddenly at their work environment, that can really upset them. They wouldn't do well with that. Now, their work usually requires a lot of diligence and hard work, because Saturn rules the 10th house. And because Saturn rules the 10th house, it can also bring difficulties at work sometimes, because Saturn can bring karmic lessons through the area that it rules. So ruling the 10th house of career, the karmic lessons can come from the area of career. They may have issues with coworkers or with their boss, or they may feel like things are not right at work. It's almost like their radar is always turned on the work environment. So there may be some complaining going on there, right? But at the same time, Saturn ruling the 10th house does give them the ability to work really hard. These guys don't give up. Not only does Mars rule their ascendant, which is Aries, Saturn ruling the 10th house, they have this can-do attitude. They will not give up. They'll continue to try something until they get it, okay? Sagittarius becomes their 9th house. So that means that they will have very strong religious beliefs and spiritual inclinations. They may sometimes come across as very righteous, that's definitely the case, but they will kind of be able to defend and sometimes even argue their religious point of view. So that's definitely going to be the case there. Now, the seventh house of relationship partner becomes Libra. So remember how we were saying that you attract your opposites. So Libra being the seventh house, you know, one of the things is they'll have a really beautiful, good-looking spouse. There's no doubt about it. But Libra is also the balance. It's the scales. So their spouse will need to be a very balanced individual who can kind of ground this energy of Aries, the fire energy of Aries. You need Libra to ground it. Okay, so that's a kind of individual they'll attract. Now, the fifth house is ruled by Leo, right? Sorry, the fifth house, the sign is Leo. It's ruled by the sun. So most of the time, these individuals have boys. They have sons, S-O-N, sons, because sun, S-U-N, sun, is actually a male energy. So you will see that these Aries ascendants, they usually have children, I mean, boys as children, or if they have girls, the girls will be very strong-minded, stubborn sometimes, kind of like, you know, leaders in what they do, and they like to be first in everything and all of that. They'll have all that kind of energy of, you know, having those tendencies to always win if they are girls. Even boys the same way, but most of the time Aries ascendants, they have boys, they have sons. Okay. Now, one of the things is, you know, with the Aries ascendant, Pisces becomes the 12th house. And no matter, you know, how you kind of look at this, Aries being the first house and Pisces being the 12th, they do have humanitarian tendencies. So even if they are, you know, sometimes a little money-minded, Taurus is the second house, they can be very materialistic and money-minded and like to collect luxuries and live a luxurious life. But Pisces being the 12th house, they do give back to the society when it's needed. And they do have a humanitarian side to them. Now, Aries, the sign, zodiac sign Aries has 3 nakshatras in it. It has Ashwini, Bharani, and a part of Kritika nakshatra. Now, you know, one of the things with Aries ascendants also is Ashwini nakshatra. If your, you know, ascendant is in those first 13 degrees of Aries, then being in Ashwini nakshatra, you know, the person can be a great animal lover. They love animals. That's the thing with Ashwini, especially horses. And if you're a Bharani nakshatra, you have a little bit more of a sober, serious side to you. And Bharani nakshatras, they do have a tough life, but they make the best of what is given to them, and they are the breakthrough nakshatra, right? So they kind of take their life, and, you know, when life gives them lemons, they make lemonades, right? That's the kind of life a Bharani nakshatra has. And Kritika, of course, you know, stands for very quick talk, quick-witted, you know, it's the scissors, it's cutting, and also they love the home life, right? Kritika nakshatra, they love the home life. And remember, the part of Kritika nakshatra that falls in Aries, if the ascendant is there, the 4th house becomes Cancer anyway. So Aries ascendants anyway love the home life. They love the structure, like we said. So that's the main characteristics of Aries. Next time I'll come back and we'll talk about the Taurus, while I continue in parallel with our nakshatra series, which I had to put on pause for a little bit because I was still gathering a lot of research, so I can come to you with the right stories. And you know I love my mythology, so I don't want to come to you with the incorrect stories. So I was doing a lot of research on the nakshatras, so I will be starting that up again next week. Thank you again for coming to my channel, and I'll see you next time.